All right. As promised, today we're gonna unpack my bike from Tour Divide. I finished my ride on Saturday, and it's now Thursday. Haven't touched the bike. Still filthy. I did get stuck in peanut butter mud for 16 hours in New Mexico, so all of it's still pretty muddy and pretty dirty. And I assume there's still wrappers stashed away in the frame bag. So before we dive into the bags that are on the bike, let's start with what I wore. These are Physique Ergo Lace, Terra Ergo Lace. So they're flats, laces, Gore-Tex, so they're a little bit waterproof. They did get a little hot in New Mexico, but I had 2 pair of socks that I would just swap out and try to keep my feet fresh. So that was what's on my feet. This is my helmet. It's a older Specialized S-Works Prevail 2, and it has Phoenix HM50R on the headlamp, for the headlamp here. And then I wore a Randy Joe linen cycling cap. This was great for keeping the sun out and keeping my head cool. Whenever I came across a creek or water, I would just dip the cap and there you go. In the garbage bag here is still my dirty clothes. This is just a sun shirt from REI, and it's hoodless, or doesn't have a hood. It's now been down the divide 3 times and super sun faded, and but did the job. These are a pair of Smart Wool socks. I started with 2 pair, 1 Smart Wool, 1 Darn Tough, and somewhere in Idaho I lost the Darn Tough, so I just had 1 pair of Smart Wool socks until I got to Pinedale, and then bought a second pair. Also, before we get into the bags on the bike, I did start with a backpack. I know I promised that I wasn't going to, but I did start with that Topo Designs Mini Rover backpack. When I left Banff, just because I had a bunch of food and wanted to carry a lot of food. I wanted to be able to eat food whenever I was hungry. So until the Llama Ranch, I carried, which is 500 something miles in, after Ovando, after Lincoln. When I got to the Llama Ranch, I donated my backpack to their gear swap bag and just relied on this musette. And this is where I would carry all of my food. Most of the frame bag, by the time I got to New Mexico, was full of water. In New Mexico, I had 2 liters in the top, 2 liters in the bottom, and then 1.5 liters on the down tube here. And so this was primarily just food, all food. And even now there's still some honey roasted cashews in there, sunflower seeds, whatever. So, and a bunch of trash. So this would be what I would load up when I was at Resupplies, and it was comfortable, it was light, and after it was empty, I could stow it away in any of the bags. So that worked out great. Let's jump into the bags, starting with the frame bag. Like I mentioned, most of the frame bag was water. I guess by the time I got to New Mexico, most of it was water. Up north, this top section was full of food. This was an additional 2-liter bladder that I carried, and that fit in the top tube here. Otherwise, just a bunch of wrappers, uh, even some meat sticks left over. This is also where I had my GoPro. So I found that the top tube bag was pretty full, and it made it difficult to get the GoPro in and out. And so the frame bag was the easiest place for me to just in and out, grab the GoPro. So that was in the top front section here. And then also, I have my tire pump and some CO2. I did puncture the rear tire at mile 14. I put a plug in it, hit it with some CO2, and then rode it for the next 1,500 miles. So shout out to Dynaplug. Shout out to CO2. Whatever. That's it. That's all that's in the top section here. In the bottom section, I always had this 2-liter bladder, and that was hooked up to my hydration hose. And these two hydration bladders are identical. They both have the adapter so I can hook the hose straight in. And so, yeah, that just made it quick for, drinking all of this one and then plugging this one straight in. Also in the bottom is where I would normally have 1 or 2 Red Bulls, and that would fit with the 2 liters in there. So, that made for good storage. In the opposite side of the frame bag is where I kept my tarp pole, stakes for the tarp. I have my spork. I really only use this once for ice cream. And also in there are just some odds and ends. This is my bear whistle. This is a leash for my camera that fell off. A little packable bag. I carried this pack of Gushers from my friend Gav the whole way. Never ate it. Got to return that to him. And then I also had lens cleaners, eyeglass wipes. And then I have my passport and my wallet, some contacts and some trash, some eye drops. I also have an extra Garmin 530 in here. Never touched it, so that's a good sign. I have my glasses, sunglasses. So these glasses that I'm wearing, my prescription glasses, are the same frames as my sunglasses. And so if one of those broke, I had a backup, and that worked out great. This is the stem cap. Jeff Sapp and I collaborated and made these. I designed these stem caps, and he printed them up and sent them to Brush Mountain Lodge, and Kirsten was handing them out there. And then there was also a handful at the border. That's it for the frame bag. Top tube bag had my cords for charging. Had 2 10,000 milliamp battery banks, Nightcore 10,000 milliamp. Had my wall charger, USB-C 2 thing wall charger. Quick Dynaplug, CO2 head, lip balm, lighter, and saddle cream. This is nut butter saddle cream that I used both for saddle sores and for my feet. My camera keeps overheating, so we're just going to shoot it on the iPhone. This is a Sony RX100 Mark IV, and I had that in my top tube bag as well. Thanks to Joe at JPax for sewing in this elastic. The camera actually survived and didn't get rattled apart. So, heck yeah. And that's all I had in the top tube bag. It was great because out of this top tube bag I had cords running from the battery bank to my K-Lite charger, and then also up here to my InReach Mini. And then I was just able to, charge my Garmin 1040 Solar and InReach Mini simultaneously. And then when they were charged, I would just plug this back into the K-Lite charger and be charging my battery bank. So that worked so smooth and never ran out of power. I always kept one battery bank specifically for my Garmin's, because without those, no progress can happen. And then the other one I would keep for my cameras and phone. So that's that bag. That's that bag. In the front roll, it was really cool because it was just on with this one strap, and that was that. It was easy on, easy off. And in here I had my sleep roll. So my quilt, 40-degree quilt from Enlighten Equipment, my 3/4 length Neo Rest, Thermarest Neo Air pad, and my pillow, and my puffy jacket. So let's take a look. First is my Topo Designs Global Puffer. It's just a synthetic jacket, packs down super small, works when it's wet. I never wore this other than one really cold morning in Colorado, and then when I would go to sleep, I would just kind of use it as like a throw blanket. Never really wearing it, but just adding additional warmth and like a blanket sort of deal. Next up is my pillow. This is some kind of pillow. They're all the same. I think it's Sea to Summit something. This is 3/4 length Thermarest pad, and my 40-degree Enlighten Equipment, I think it's Revelation quilt, down, 850 fill. I've had it for 5 or 6 years. It's definitely maybe on the maybe it's on the warmer side. No, it's on the cooler side of what I would take again. 40 degree is fine when you combine the rest of your clothes, and because I was using a bivy, it added some warmth to that. But I think if I were to do the Tour Divide again, I would maybe go down to a 20-degree bag. That's that. That's all that was in the front roll. And again, I was just attached with one volet strap, and then I did have an elastic shock cord to go around the head tube. Let's do these next. These I had actually zip tied on to the Mini Things cages here, and then I had my chain brush and mud scraper on the back, and in the front I had chain lube and some hand sanitizer, and then in the actual bag itself I had my shoe cover, rain gloves, and then in the right I had my rain jacket, and then in my left I had my rain pants. So that worked out. Also in the left is where I had my sunscreen, and it was great because I was able to take this out and use it while I was still riding, and then slip it back in without disrupting anything else. This is some bug spray. I never touched my bug spray this year. Bugs were sort of bad in Montana, and up north. But if you kept moving, you know, wasn't so bad. So those are those two bags. Next up, this is just a fanny pack that I've had for quite a while. And I originally intended on using it on my aero bars for like a snacky eaty bag. But eventually I just started using it on the back of the rack here. I lost one of my straps, and so I actually had to use this as a strap to keep my dry bag on there, and it worked out quite well. But this elastic pouch on the outside was great for garbage. That's where I stored most of my garbage. And then on the inside of the bag is where I had my wet wipes, and this was just a gilet vest that I wore quite a bit, actually. And then some merino wool, smart wool gloves. Next up, let's take the dry bag off. Under the dry bag, I had my sit pad. Again, this was one of my favorite pieces of gear that I brought on the whole ride. It was so nice to just have a place to sit and have a place to stand while I was changing clothes or anything like that. And it also acted as a good fender, so that my dry bag wouldn't get wet and just protect my back from getting sprayed with mud. So $10 sit pad, one of my favorite pieces of gear. This was the tube that I had strapped there. Never needed it, never used it. I mentioned that I did get a puncture on my rear, but I hit it with a Dynaplug and it held for 1,500 miles. So that worked out. And let's dig into this. This side, Pedaled merino t-shirt. I wore pretty much the whole tour until I got to New Mexico, and then it just got too hot for this and my sun shirt. Next up is my Senshi Designs Alpha Fleece layer. I wore this when it was cold to ride, but also pretty much every single night when I would go to bed in my tarp, in my bivvy. I would wear this, and then I have also the same sort of leggings. This was my pouch of clothes, extra socks, underwear, and then this is that same type of Alpha Fleece pants. So between these two items, this is what I slept in. And underwear, extra pair of socks. These are Lululemon just athletic, maybe they're yoga pants. I don't even know what they call them. But these were great for riding, and they were quick to dry. So early mornings, evenings, whatever. These became a good piece of a good layering item. Next up is my bivvy, which is Mountain Laurel Designs FKT event bivvy. And I've had this for 5-6 years. It's not the most waterproof thing anymore. It could use some redo of some of the seams and maybe an extra coat of DWR, but it was great paired with my Z-Packs Hexamid pocket tarp with doors. It's still wet. Gosh, I should have gotten this stuff out a while ago. But I wanted to make this video, so here we are. I maybe set this up 6 or 7 times, and so it would definitely come with again. But when you get down towards New Mexico. You just get close to the end, and I got lazy about setting this up, and so most times I would just sleep in my bivvy. But last things in here are my tool roll. This has all of my tools in it. Without going too much into it, there's a multi-tool, Tubolito tube, tire lever. And this is all small stuff: thread, needle, bolts. There's a chain tool in there, and this is my hygiene / sleep kit. And so there's toothbrush, toothpaste, athletic tape, more saddle cream, eye mask, and earplugs. So, yeah, both of these bags started in this bottom area, and I just realized that the more I just needed more space in my frame bag, and I never really needed those 2 pouches until I got to camp, or if I was having an issue, a serious enough issue that I had to stop anyway. So it made a lot of sense to save some frame bag space and put those in my rear saddle roll. So I think that's kind of it. That's everything I brought. And that's where everything lived on the bike. There you go. That's how it all shook down. I haven't really started to look at any of the footage from the trip, any of the riding footage or any of the GoPro stuff. So I don't know. I don't know if I got anything cool or if I got enough to tell a good story about the ride. So stay tuned. Maybe in the next couple weeks I'll get that footage edited up. But thanks for clicking on the video. Thanks for all the support. I had a bunch of people message me during the ride, after I finished the ride. Just a bunch of positive support. So it means a lot, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.